Coming into the 2023-2024 NBA season, the Houston Rockets made it very clear that they were ready to take the next step in that rebuilding phase, which is becoming a competitive basketball team once again and hopefully getting into the playoffs. This offseason, we've seen them make so many moves that supported that motive. We've seen them bring in Coach Ime Udoka, who is a very successful first-year head coach with the Boston Celtics, had one of the best records in the NBA, one of the best defenses statistically of all time. And they got all the way to the NBA Finals where they unfortunately came up short. But getting him as a coach for this young team is big time for the Houston Rockets. And also we've seen them spend a healthy amount of money on NBA veterans, and not only just any NBA veterans, but NBA veterans that have played quality roles or have played vital roles on playoff teams and teams that have made deep playoff runs. We look at Dillon Brooks and his experience with the Memphis Grizzlies. He was one of their best, or he was their best defender and one of the best perimeter defenders in all of the NBA, and a streaky three-point shooter. The Houston Rockets, they pay him the bag and bring him in, and they also bring in Fred VanVleet, who plays the point guard position, something we haven't seen for the Houston Rockets since they really started this rebuild post the James Harden era. We haven't really seen a point guard on this team, so they pay Fred VanVleet, who has been very successful in the NBA. He's been an all-star. He's been in deep playoff runs, and we all know that he played a vital role in the Toronto Raptors winning their first ever championship in 2019. So we see them bring in some free agents, also bringing in Uncle Jeff Green, and we see them bring in a new head coach. So you got these factors right here, and then also you're banking on the fact of your young players getting better, and we've seen plenty of young players on this Houston Rockets team take a leap this season. One of those guys is Alperen Sengun, who has just been amazing this year, and he just might make the all-star team. And we look at Alperen Sengun so far this season, he's having career highs all across the board. 22 points per game, which is a career high for him, 9 rebounds per game, which is also a career high, and he's also averaging 5 assists per game, which also is a career high. So 22, 9, and 5 assists per game. That is very, very productive. And I was reading some articles, and Alperen Sengun has given he's given a lot of credit of the success that he's had so far this season to the guys around him. He said Coach Ime Udoka, Fred VanVleet, and Dillon Brooks, he said those guys have been big time for him, changing the culture in the Houston Rockets as far as the ways of winning, because we know over the last couple of years the Houston Rockets have lost a lot of games, and that has not been the case so far this season. And a lot of people were ridiculing the Houston Rockets for giving Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks so much money in the offseason, but I think players like that are so important to have around really talented and growing young players. And Alperen Sengun is walking proof of that. As he said, these guys has helped him out tremendously. And then we just look at his skill set. Alperen Sengun can literally do everything on the offensive side of the basketball. There is no weakness to his game as far as being a big man in this NBA. He's great in the two-man game. He's so talented. He can do a lot of things, catching the ball on the road as far as finishing, passing, shooting. He has an amazing back to the basket game, a bunch of post moves, probably just about every post move in the book. And then also he's a tremendous finisher, and we all know how great of a playmaker he is. So Alperen Sengun, he has been lights out for the Houston Rockets so far this season, and he is the best player on this team as of right now. Another player that's benefiting from bringing in Coach Ime Udoka and bringing in Fred VanVleet is Jabari Smith Jr., who's looking a lot better offensively this season, and most importantly, he's looking a lot more comfortable to the NBA competition and the NBA level. And last year was just completely different for the Houston Rockets. We've seen Jabari Smith sitting in that corner a lot, watching Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. kind of do whatever they wanted on the offensive side of the ball, and that's what it was last year with Coach Stephen Silas. The Houston Rockets kind of got to do whatever they wanted on the offensive side side of the ball. Now with Coach Ime Udoka, there's a lot of more ball movement, and now Jabari Smith Jr. is being utilized much more effectively. We're seeing him in pick and roll and pick and pop situations where he's getting downhill and he's knocking down open 3-point shots. He's shooting the 3-ball at 38% this season, which is pretty respectable, especially for a guy his size. We got to remember Jabari Smith Jr. is 6'10", and this season he's also done a great job of rebounding the basketball very well, which he did in his rookie season, and also he's getting to that mid-range area. So it's going to be very interesting to see the situation that the Houston Rockets are in right now. They got a lot of guys that can score the basketball on this team right now. So that's why we only see Jabari Smith Jr. He's averaging 13.7 points per game right now, but there is a night where he can go out and get you 25, 30 points. It's just a little hard because the Houston Rockets have a lot of guys that can get you 15 points and a lot of guys that can get you 20 points on this team. So it's going to be interesting from that standpoint statistically. But as far as the eye test, Jabari Smith Jr., he looks a lot more comfortable this NBA season. So everything that we've talked about so far in the video has been amazing things so far this season for the Houston Rockets. Bringing in Coach Ime Udoka, who has them winning a lot more games and a chance to get into the playoffs. Bringing in Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks, and then you have two of your young players in Jabari Smith Jr. and Alperen Sengun, who looks like they're taking great steps this year and looking more comfortable in the NBA. And then we get to Jalen Green, who I thought was the biggest X factor for the Houston Rockets this season. Now, we made a bunch of videos before the season started talking about the Houston Rockets because I thought they had such a terrific offseason in the draft and free agency, bringing in the new head coach. And one thing that I talked about was basically saying what Coach Ime Udoka, Fred VanVleet, and Dillon Brooks, what those three guys are doing, helping Jabari Smith and Alperen Sengun. I basically said that they were going to be doing the same thing for Jalen Green, but unfortunately, so far this season, that has not been the case for Jalen Green nor the Houston Rockets. You look at Jalen Green's numbers, he's averaging 17 points per game, he's averaging around 3 assists per game and almost 5 rebounds per game. Now, that's not really bad at all, pretty productive. Anytime you can average 15, 20 points per game in the NBA, I think that's impressive. But we all know we hold Jalen Green to a different standard because he is a supremely talented basketball player, and he was the number 2 overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft. Now, we look at those numbers, they're, like I said, they're pretty productive, but it doesn't become a problem until you get to Jalen Green's efficiency, and he has not been efficient at all so far this season, and it's still very early in this season. We're only 40 games in, or the Houston Rockets are 42 games in, so we have about half of the season left to go. But Jalen Green so far this season, he's 39% from the field, under 40%. That's pretty bad. And then also from the three-point line, he's only knocking down 32% of his threes. Now, there could be so many different reasons to why Jalen Green is underperforming in this manner, and I think there's a few different things we got to look at. For number one, Coach Ime Udoka, his offensive system is a lot different from Coach Steven Silas. As we talked about earlier last year, the Houston Rockets kind of had a free-for-all on the offensive side of the ball, and they kind of got to do whatever they wanted. Really, the guards of the teams, the Kevin Porter Jr.'s and the Jalen Greens. And then also with Coach Ime Udoka versus that, it's a lot more ball movement, which I thought would help Jalen Green. Jalen Green getting open off the ball, or other guys getting open off the ball for Jalen Green. I thought that would help him. I thought that would help him a lot. And so far, that hasn't been the case. We can look at his shot attempts. His shot attempts per game hasn't changed too differently. I think last year it was around 17.8, so around 18 shots per game, and this year it's around 14.8 shots per game. So we round up, he's gone from 18 shots per game last season to 15 shots per game this season. Like 15 shots, that's still a lot of shots. 3 shots off the board. I don't think that affect him. I don't think that should affect him too much. So those are some things to consider. Maybe the new system is something that he's still having a hard time adjusting to, not being able to do what he wants to do on the offensive side of the ball, or it could be something where player. He's just not right mentally, and he's not the most confident in his abilities right now. Now, from what I heard and what I read, Coach Ime Udoka, he hasn't thought about benching Jalen Green or anything like that. We have seen some stretches where Jalen Green is sitting out in the closing moments of the game, or sitting down a huge amount of time in the fourth quarter. But Coach Ime Udoka said he has not thought about taking him out that starting lineup at all. So it sounds like the coach and his teammates still has confidence in Jalen Green, and you never know, it could just be a mental thing right now for Jalen Green, because we all know that the skill set is definitely there. He showcased it his first 2 years in the NBA. The size that he has, the athleticism, and then the ability to shoot the basketball. Jalen Green I think he could easily average minimum 25 points per game for at least 5 years out of his NBA career. That's at least what I'm seeing with my eyes. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I think it's very impressive that the Houston Rockets are in playoff contention and the most talented, or one of the most talented players on this team, because I think it's a debate between who's more talented, between him and Sengun. Before the season started, I had Jalen Green as the best player on this team, and you guys were in the comment section like, no, it's going to be Alperen Sengun, and you guys were right, because Sengun has been playing out of his mind, and Jalen Green has still been struggling. But I think he'll figure it out. Hopefully he figures it out. He has a great coach, and he has great guys and great leaders around him. So the Houston Rockets right now, they're 20-22. I believe they're 9th in the Western Conference. So they're in the play-in tournament as of right now. So they do have a shot to get into the playoffs. And just imagine if Jalen Green does start to come around, and then they have that guy that can give you 23, 25 points per game. This is going to be a completely different team, because they're really great defensively, and they're great on the boards, and they just really need that guy that can be dynamic alongside Alperen Sengun. And then the Houston Rockets are going to be a big problem in the Western Conference. But that's what I want to talk about with you guys today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.